This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
Well, it's Suns night in the Valley. As we're turning the page, we hope the Suns can get a win because the Arizona Cardinals did not get a win on Sunday. We had the Sun Devils. Why can't all these teams win at the same time, Lorenzo?
Because it's hard to win. It just lets you know. I mean, they have three good teams. And all these teams are good, but it's hard to sync up wins just because it's so difficult to win at that level.
Well, okay, so the Cardinals, we thought before the bye week, okay, they're in first place in the NFC West. We could have some playoff football here in the desert. Now they're below 500. They've lost 3 straight. They have 4 games to go here. I asked Nick King this we're just fresh out of the television studio vibe check. What do you feel like is the vibe check right now with the Arizona Cardinals?
Very low. It's kind of in the middle. I mean, if you're out of that locker room, they're probably very disappointed in themselves because they've allowed this season to get away from them. And so it's not great. They got to look internally and try to figure out a way to put themselves in a position to be available if other teams don't do their job, because at this point they're not in the driver's seat, right? Yeah. They're 2 games behind Seattle, 2 games behind Washington, which feels more like 3 games because they lost to both of those teams. So we got to see what this team is made out of. I know who their superstars are, right? When we think about Budda Baker, right, 18 tackles, right? When we think about James Conner, right, the heartbeat and how he runs down people's throats, right? We know who those guys are and what they're able to do. But, you know, I think even like I said on the broadcast, they have, and I think I've talked about this on the Wolf and Luke show as well, and it might even been something Wolf.
By the way, plug that, by the way, because that's a must listen during the week.
So
when do you go on that?
Every Thursday during the season from 11 to noon with those guys, and I have a lot of fun. Obviously, Wolf is one of my big brothers that I looked up to, special teams demon, and I modeled my game because I had a special teams coach that mentioned to him when I was a young guy in the league, like, hey, this dude was a fullback and played this long with the 4 Pro Bowls. I was like, man, I can do that, you know? So it's somebody, before I even knew of him. So it's really cool to be able to work with him and understand the man and the father he is and the husband. So it's really cool to be around Ron Wolfley. But, yeah, check it out, 11 to noon, especially during the season. And once in a while I'll jump on and fill in. But he brought to attention to me that they have a lot of young guys, right? I think maybe 11 or so, right around that number of 2 years or younger. And I always have said that you know who the Budda Bakers are of the team, right? Coaches trust and know what they're going to get out of. Fans know what they're going to get out of those guys. Opponents know what they're going to get out of those guys. It's some of those younger players that are they going to step up? Are they going to fall back? Are they going to have, a sophomore slump? And I think right now you have some guys that have kind of been a little uneven, right? I think about Michael Wilson as a receiver who's really been playing some really good football and has really stepped up as one of those young players. But then I think about Paris, right, playing at the left tackle spot, one of the hardest spots, who's been strong, but over the last couple of weeks, especially coming back from the bye week, has had several holding calls, right, getting edged, right? And that's part of the game. It happens, but typically veteran guys don't allow it to be consistently from game to game. They're able to nip it in the bud maybe after that one game coming off the bye, right, had a week off. But that's not what I'm going to continue to allow to happen to me. And so I think that's where they're at. They have to find themselves, especially those younger guys. Obviously, Kyler, I mean, he's a given because he's the quarterback. But those other guys, the supporting staff, have to find themselves in order for this team to be who I thought they could be at the beginning. I felt like I'm a genius, man. I think they can win 10, 11 games, win a division. Not so early. Then they got back. Oh, yeah, they can. Now I'm feeling like, man, I'm stupid. So it's just, that's how the season goes, though.
It's week to week. Is there such a thing as mojo inside NFL locker room, and have the Cardinals lost their mojo?
I think there is. I mean, it's called confidence, right? When you have success, when you've prepared well and your process has been validated by a win and your production on the football field, you feel good about yourself. You walk around differently, right? Held high, your head held up high. You have a little bit of swagger to you, like, I don't care what you think you're about to do because what I do is better, right? And when it is not validated by a win, by the outcome, you're like, sometimes you can start second guessing yourself. And I think that's where a lot of times you can differentiate yourself, because if you know you have a good process, right? JG has a good process. And I know he mentioned I got to do some things differently. No, you don't. Guys on that football team have to play better. Right, your process is working. It's shown. These guys are in the right positions, but changing your process isn't going to stop a holding call, right? Changing your process isn't going to change a intentional grounding, right? This team hasn't really stopped the run well all year for the most part. So I don't think changing your process at this point in time is going to help that. But they have been able to hold teams to field goals or find ways to turn it over, right? So changing your process isn't going to help those things. I think you have to stay steady to who you are and where you're at right now. And then in the offseason, then you have a chance to kind of come back and look at, okay, well, maybe I could do something a little bit different. But the last 4 weeks, to me at least, who you are and what you've done up to this point, if you're changing anything drastically, and I don't know what he would change at this point, is really saying that you're not confident in what you have been doing. And from my perspective, from a coaching, from how this team shows up every single week, and even fighting in his last game, I think his process and how they prepare is good. Guys just have to hone in, be focused, and understand, yeah, I'm hurting, right? Buda Baker's hurting. 18 tackles, though. You got to follow that lead. I don't care if you're hurting, you got a little toe, ankle sore, hand sore, whatever. I can't hear. I don't know what your excuse may be.
You said I can't hear? Is that an NFL?
Yeah, I don't, it's loud in the stadium. That's why I'm getting off the ball slow. I don't know. I didn't hear the check. Right, whatever it may be, that happens, right? I didn't hear the close call. You have to be accountable. You have to be consistent, and you can't allow those things when you have an issue to kind of just pile up on each other. And I think that's what I've seen, especially from a penalty standpoint, has really hurt this football team the last 3 weeks.
Is the league kind of caught up with them, though? That's my question, because of the way they were beat at the line of scrimmage today and letting a backup running back, Charbonneau, run all over them. They've had so many injuries on the defensive line, 4 guys out for the year. Is this just a matter of, next man up is a thing, but when you're relying on guys who maybe weren't penciled in to play those positions, is that what we saw today?
Yeah, I think, honestly, we've seen these games where they've been ran on throughout the entire year, right? And then they found ways to kind of fix it when they played, and I guess they were playing Chicago. Who was that 3-game? Miami. Yep. Miami ran the ball on them over them, too, and they found a way. So
bend but don't break. That's what we called it, right?
Yep. So I think today the biggest thing was not being able to turn the ball over. Yeah. Right, even when they played Minnesota last week, they were able to turn the ball over. Right, Adam Jones a couple of times, get a couple of hands on the ball. So that was missing. Right, even though they may have given up a big play like they did today in the run game, they were finding a way to get that guy down and then defend the red zone really well, which didn't happen today. That explosive play turned into a touchdown. So I think there's certain things that just happened in the game where they couldn't maybe rely on some of the things they do really well, especially when you think about that red zone defense, and definitely they didn't get any turnovers.
Well, and you look at Kyler, 2 interceptions the past 2 weeks, 3 straight losses, and since the bye, he has not looked like the best player in the world. When Jonathan Gannon said before the bye, he was the best player in the world, and I don't know if it's mojo. You think defenses are throwing different looks at him? If you're the Patriots and you watch the game today, what would you come in and how would you try to make Kyler Murray beat you?
In the pocket.
Yep.
Changing the picture post-snap, just like that interception that we talked about. And, obviously Jonathan Gannon thought that Kyler made the right play. But, from my perspective and how, I've been taught, it looked like it was quarters, right? They showed too high, the safeties, and right before the ball was snapped, and, it happens really quick, the strong safety rolls down into the hook area, right? So that tells me it's cover 3. And you're not really throwing a backside dig on cover 3, especially when you didn't move the linebacker at all. He caught the ball and pretty much stared down that backside receiver. And even though that linebacker opened up to the strong side as far as his hips, his body and his eyes was still occupying that weak hook area where he tried to throw that dig route to the backside ex-receiver and Kyler Murray. And that's why the ball got picked off, because the linebacker didn't even have to move.
Right.
It ain't like he broke from the strong side and came back down. He pretty much just flipped his hips, squared up, catch. Right? So that tells me that they were in that cover 3 and that was a weak hook, because it was a 3-by-1 set. If that was quarters, that person that picked the ball off would have been over a lot closer to where McBride was, who was the number 3 receiver, because he's responsible for matching with the number 3 receiver. Not to get too nerdy on football.
No. I love it. Okay, so quarters real quick is 4 across.
4 deep, right?
So and cover 3 is 3 across.
3
right?
deep.
So what do you do with the other? Okay, so 3 deep. What do you do with the other 8 guys? Is that where you're loading?
So
up the
you're
box?
rushing. So 3 deep. Yep. So you bring down a safety. So now you have.
We need like helmets.
I know you have a body for every single gap, right? That's 8. That's when they say you have an 8-man box.
Yeah,
means that I have a defender. As long as the quarterback doesn't run the ball, I have a defender for every single gap. When you play quarters 4 deep, or you play with the safeties out of the box, because the corners are never really in the run fit, you typically have one less defender for how many running gaps there are, and then linebackers have to typically 2 gap. And so I'm responsible for 2 gaps depending on which way the running back or the ball is going.
So
and I
would choose this one.
Yeah,
wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And I may get a late safety if it's running back, cut back, or the weak side safety based on which way the ball is ran.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between, from a run standpoint, 2 deep, single high. Now, passing wise, it's also different because when you have 4 deep, you only have 3 underneath. And so now it's a little bit more match coverage. Right, so now I have to relate to guys, right? And in that case, the Mike linebacker would have been relating to 3. And in 3 deep, I have 4 underneath. Now that's more spot drop. I'm dropping to an area. I'm not dropping off of a man. And that's what he essentially did. He dropped to the weak hook. The only reason why he was opened up to the strong side, as JG said, is because he had to look for the vertical of number 3, right? And if you know football, when you're playing cover 3, the route concept that stresses that coverage is all go. So everybody runs a go route, right? So that weak side hook player is looking to see if he has to help out the middle of the field safety with that number 3 receiver coming across his face running a go route. Yeah. So I know that's a lot.
No, I love it. And
that's essentially what I saw.
And so the quarterback's processing that, the linebackers are processing that.
Yes.
So you could spot if you were rushing the passer and you knew what kind of defense you were in, but say out of the corner of your eye, you saw the routes on one side of the field and be like, oh, I really have to get to the quarterback quick because we're hosed on this play. We don't have this covered.
So as a defensive lineman, I'm not getting that deep into it.
Yeah.
I'm about to beat this dude in front of me. Now, the difference from a defensive lineman, when I have zone protection behind me and I'm playing a Kyler Murray, I can be a little bit more free in how I rush.
Yeah.
If we're playing man-to-man, right, now I have to be a little bit more conservative in how I rush because everybody's backs are to him. And so if I allow him to get out, break contain, or get up the middle, he's going to run for a long time. So that's why.
No spin moves, basically.
Unless your name is like Von Miller, right? And you have the leash to do it. But if you're a Lorenzo Alexander, you spin move and he gets out,
yeah,
come over here. Come sit next to me. So, yeah, so you also got to know who you are, right? But, yeah, typically from a football IQ standpoint, when a team is playing zone, I can be a little bit more aggressive. If we're playing man, I got to be a little bit more responsible because there's nobody who has eyes, especially when you're playing a Kyler Murray type.
Okay, football, nerd out on football. I think that's what this is like, second we need to call. I could ask you about this all day, but we'd have you here all day. Okay, so before we talk to Sun Devil Joe here about his beloved Sun Devils, actually, Joe, are you there? Is your mic working?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so you can help us out here. You can help us break the tie. All right, so next week, let's do a little quick prediction. I say the Cardinals beat the Patriots. What do you say?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 2 out of 3, but Joe, what do you say?
I think it'll be closer than what people think. Patriots are actually playing pretty well, and they're coming off a bye.
So you say no?
Now Cardinals get the win.
All right, Cardinals get the win, so they go to 7-7. All right, then they go on the road to Carolina, who's playing better. Ugh.
I hate to do this, but I'm gonna say no.
Joe?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, I agree with you. That's the no's have it.
Freezing cold. Carolina's playing good. They probably should have beat Philly today.
So they're 7-8. The Cardinals are 7-8, and if they got the Rams and they got the Niners to finish the year. Rams. Oh, sorry. What is that? That's New Year's Eve. Okay, yeah. So Rams.
No.
In LA. Joe?
No.
Yeah, I say no. All right, so you're 7-9. Niners to finish the year. It was going so well. What happened?
Yeah, I know. Because I was a lot of yeses. It's crazy how this thing changes week to week based on what you just watched and how you feel. That's a home game?
Yes. Could the
Niners, I'm gonna say they're gonna defend. I'm gonna say yes.
Joe, you're a Niners. You're part of the support group.
Here's
Are you a Niner faithful?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are you a Bay Area guy?
Yeah, I'm named after Joe Montana.
Did we talk about this?
He's Joe Dwight.
Yeah, I'm Joe Dwight.
Okay, I grew up a Niners fan too. I didn't realize, but that is dope. Joe Dwight Clark. Okay, I see that. We're in the. And I'm sorry to sidetrack the pod.
No, that's
so in the Bay Area. Where you at?
Peninsula, like San Mateo, Redwood City.
Okay, all right.
Went to Sarah High School.
Yeah, Sarah. Okay, Barry Bonds, home of Barry Bonds. Yeah, okay. Tom Brady went there too. Yeah,
Lynn Swan.
Yeah. Okay, look, you're gonna name them all off. Go ahead.
Greg Jeffries.
Okay.
From yours, it's Lorenzo Alexander. What high school was
I
that
went to
again?
St. Mary's High School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who all came out of there?
Me, Tristan George, Courtney Brown.
Courtney Brown from the Quiet Storm from Penn State?
No, not that Courtney Brown.
Okay.
No, we have our own Courtney Brown. He played for the Cowboys.
Okay.
Tristan played with the Jaguars for a little bit, and we was a little small private boys school. Well, we used to be all boys. It was co-ed when I went, 600 kids. So that's 3, and we have one older cat that went to the league, and I can't think of his name right now. He played with the Saints for a little bit. So we've had, our fair share of guys come out, and nobody on that level. We don't have any Hall of Famers. So
well, maybe a Bills Hall of Famer one day.
Well, maybe
we gotta continue working our way down the field.
Well, if they let special teamers in, I could probably get in.
They should.
Yeah, but they don't.
Well,
we got Tasker. We got Ron Wolfley needs to go in before Brian Mitchell. There's a ton of guys.
Right. Who would be the other special teamers in the Hall of Fame? Bill Bates, maybe.
Bates. Probably maybe Dante Hall.
Oh yeah.
There's who else would be in there?
Who's the guy for the Giants?
What you call it has to go in. If he doesn't, nobody ever has a chance. Matthew Slater, he went to 11 Pro Bowls, right?
Yeah.
All those Patriots Super Bowls teams, and was a game changer.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's guys out there but just their stance on it is that we don't play enough plays to impact the game. But if people have to game plan for you and you blocking punts or
what's happening in the Rams game? That was the difference in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
All right, Cam Scatterboo in the NFL, will he be a special teamer or will he be a running back who rushes for 100 yards on Sundays?
On Sundays, maybe a Sunday. You gotta wait and hold. He can play special teams for sure.
Yeah.
How fast is Scatterboo when he gets
Joe?
out in the open?
Do you know the
that
stats?
type of stuff. Because
they said they clocked him at 21 miles an hour this season.
What was Usain Bolt? I don't.
21 miles. How consistent is that though?
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's what it kind of comes away with. Like he's a great back,
right?
And I haven't watched enough of him to say he's not. But I know oftentimes just because you're great in college, and even when you are great in college, they look at you and say, man, you got a lot of mileage on you. Because he is a power, like I'm going to run through you first type guy.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to try to, get out.
Can you do that in the
that.
NFL, though? I mean, who does that in the NFL and holds up for 17 weeks?
The King.
Derrick.
Yeah. King James, Derrick Henry, or King Henry, I should say him. That's about it. I mean, you really, it's not that old school NFL. I would say if we were early, who do we have? And he's probably more athletic than, is it Hillis? Patrick?
Peyton Hillis.
Peyton Hillis?
Oh, yeah.
Mike Allstott.
Yeah, Mike Allstott. I think he's there. He's probably more athletic than those guys, though.
Yeah. Well, Hillis was great, but he got hurt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Allstott had a neck deal. He had to retire. He was great for a while.
And I've also seen Scatterboo catch the ball out of the backfield, which may give him a leg up. So he has some hands to him. So I would say yes. I don't know if he's going to be like a premier guy, though.
Yeah. Okay, are we going to learn a lot about what Scatterboo does in the pros here in the college football playoff? I feel like playing Clemson or Texas is a different level of physicality than the Big 12. You say so. Joe, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I still think he can hit guys and barrel people over and stay on his feet just because I've seen him do it for 20-something games now.
Yeah, and I think, and I hate, and I don't want to say this, that he won't do as well. It's more going to be a testament of ASU's O-line, because when you talk to coaches, that's typically what's different when you go to the SEC versus any other conference, is the linemen and the line play. Guys are just big and athletic. When you think about some of those guys that play for Georgia that are now for the Philadelphia Eagles, guys that are 350, 6'7", and run 4.7, right? And you got to block those caliber of athletes in and out, or play in and play out. So I would say it's going to be more of a tale of, is this offensive line really good? Because they're opening up these holes for Scatterboo to run through.
Yeah, is it? Do we think Scatterboo? Do we think the Sun Devils Scatterboo could deliver a victory? Could the Sun Devils? What are we saying is going to happen here in the Peach Bowl? Whether it's Texas or Clemson.
I don't know.
I have no faith in my Longhorns at all, especially in a big situation.
Well, y'all just played Georgia. Who did y'all just play? Georgia tight?
Yep.
I just don't know if ASU is on that level athletically from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Will they compete and will it be a good game? And you've probably watched more football, but just from watching the games and then watching some of those texts, it's collectively on paper, because they got to show up and play. And I think the way ASU has really played, how they play for one another, and this team, even though it's a whole bunch of transfer guys, it's really special to watch. I just don't know if they're ready for the SEC on that level.
Joe?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the SEC is a whole different level of size and speed and strength. But this team has just done stuff that ASU fans have never seen before.
ASU fans have never seen.
Right. But I've been here since I thought there was no way this was going to happen this year. And I mean, I like Kenny. I've been covering Kenny since he was at Chaparral High School. I mean, this is the most, and so many good coaches on the staff.
Who has been the top, because I know y'all have a lot of top 10 wins or top 15 wins, right?
Yeah.
Who have those teams been?
This year, they beat Utah, BYU, Iowa State, and there's one other one, Kansas State on the road.
Okay. See, and now if you was to say like Texas, Georgia, Clemson, right? It does the teams you just named historically, right? Those teams are good this year. Don't give you that same type of like, okay, they did whoop some teams, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not
Tuscaloosa
right.
Yeah.
And I want them to win, right? I'm not from Arizona, but I'm a Pac-12 guy. I want to see the Pac-12 teams that have gone and branched out to these other conferences do well. I live here. I would love for them to be able to take their brand to the next level, right? They keep referencing this sleeping giant that has been sleeping, now is awakened.
And ready to party.
I would love for it to be awakened, and ready to party, right? I would love for it so my son can see it as a school that he would want to, and other kids that I've coached to say, hey, we want to stay at home and try to play, right? And I know the portal and all that's a little bit different, but stay at home and play so I can go see my son play every. I don't have to travel because he wants to go to a Georgia, Texas. Now, is he going to be that good? I don't know, but that's what he's aspiring to, and that's the way he's working. I would love for him to be able to play on that level, but if ASU is on that level, hey, let's just stay at home so me and Mom can drive over and see you every day and watch you play.
It makes sense, and you think about the team that Herm Edwards was able to build here and how much talent was on it. Of course, it didn't ever do anything, but you can attract the players here. I mean, it sells itself. One thing Kenny had to say today is every generation or so, a new team kind of rises up, kind of like Clemson did.
Right,
Clemson before Dabo was Arizona State.
Right.
So why not them? They had a 3-year plan, and they've gotten to the end of the 3-year plan in year 2. They expected to play about a bunch of young guys, let them develop, and then blast off in year 3. They're a year ahead of schedule. How much does Kenny Dillingham's coaching philosophy and the tone he sets, how much do you think it's responsible for it?
It's significant because you're talking about essentially free agency, and you have to galvanize. What do they have, like 40-something players come in from other places?
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't, just because you bring in talent doesn't
four guys left from the Herm team. Yeah.
So it's everything in the culture, the standard that he's established, right? And then his head coach or his coaching staff is continue to preach, and then people buying into it. So obviously those young men have brought into it and been around this generation. These young men just don't buy in just to buy in, right? You got to show them some authentic behavior and some relatable ability, and so they have obviously done it. Now, him being 30-something, was he 34, 35?
What's 30?
34.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Helps, right? Because he is that generation in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
He's a big brother. And so as long as you can do that, walk that line, well, you still got to respect me, even though you see me as a big brother, and all the responsibility that goes around with that. I think he's done a great job in doing that this far. Now, the hard part is sustaining it, especially in the collective, in the NIL world, where now when you do well, people are looking to poach your top tier players. And we know some guys have already committed to staying, but if somebody throws the right dollar amount, I don't care what you said, just like we've seen coaches and other people do it.
There's no buyout for players. Sam Levitt you could make him an offer he can't refuse.
Right, if that money up.
And he's from Oregon.
And I got to go.
And Dylan Gabriel is done after this year, right?
So, and not to say that he's going to do that or put fear in people, but that's just the world we live in. And so,
he said he's not. But
but if somebody says, hey, I'm gonna give you $6 million a year to come up here and play, what does he get here?
You'd have to.
You have to. I mean, it'd be stupid not to.
Right.
And as a teammate, I can't even be mad at you.
Right.
Or as a coach, I can't do that.
And if you are, you can pay them off. Right. You have a lot of money. Sorry, Joe. Are we ruining you?
This is
the
our reality of being not up at that level yet. But I will say, the first game under this season against Wyoming, like, after 2 just miserable years and a lot of bad years, like, you could tell these guys love being Sun Devils, and they were playing hard, and then seeing some behind the scenes footage, like, start the culture. Like, Alfred screams that all the time, like, we're here to start this. And like, and that first game to me, like, was like, okay, this is a little different. I didn't think it would be this different. Because I was jokingly saying, but serious, like, 6 wins and a win in Tucson is our national championship, and
you're in the playoff.
We're at 11 wins and a bye. So.
You're in the play. The Sun Devils are in the college football playoff.
Now it's just about sustaining it, which that's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
Outside of starting something, can I sustain it? Because people become accustomed, and don't really understand what it took to get here, right? Because then you start bringing in other guys that come in. And they didn't realize what that first group of guys did to get 11 wins and start this culture of winning. And so you kind of come in and like, oh, it's going to be easy. No, it's not. You got to put this work. Oh, I didn't think it was going to be like this.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a lot of stuff that goes into it on top of the NIL stuff that you have to be able to sustain in order for this ASU brand to continue to grow and be successful.
Well, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So, good Sun Devil discussion, good Cardinal discussion. Next week, we're going to try to get you on Talking Suns.
Okay, I can do a little bit of that.
There's not a whole lot to discuss right now. They're struggling. But hopefully Durant gets back.
Right.
And we'll talk about it in the post-game report. So have a good week.
You too.
Sun Devil Joe, enjoy your team being on top of the college football world.
Well,
and
we'll talk. Mix.
Yes, in the mix. And we'll talk to you soon on the Extra Point Podcast. The Extra Point Podcast is a production of 3TV, CBS5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.